Hello and welcome to another Yeldy Apocalypse hobby video. This one is a pure nostalgia one. I'm finally saying goodbye to my old 8th edition Warhammer Fantasy Chaos Warrior army. This isn't even all of it that I used to have. They've sat in my shed since pretty much the end of 8th, 4 years ago maybe, 5 years possibly even. Haven't used them at all. I've been really reluctant to sell them because I spent so much time painting all of them. And I was always really proud of some of the paint jobs I'd done, but I just think I can't justify holding on to this many models, and some of them are worth quite a lot now as well, which I'll go through as we go through them. But I wanted to just do like a final video, just as much for me as it is anything. Just going through the army again as I remember it, what I liked about it, what I found difficult, that kind of thing. Just a kind of one last hurrah really for something that for an army that I spent a lot of time with and spent a lot of money on, a lot of time. And enjoyed using a lot as well. It was this was my first big army I ever collected of anything, 40k or fantasy or anything else. So it was kind of the first big project I ever did in this hobby of tabletop wargaming. So I kind of wanted to do this, like I said, just much for myself. I can go back and look at all this that I did back in the day of 8th edition fantasy. So I used to have 3 units of warriors, and I had all the different ones. This is the double-handed weapons, so these almost always had a Mark of Nurgle. I think Mark of Nurgle was something like -1 to hit or +1 toughness, possibly. But they used to have like strength 6, so they used to hit really hard. I had more of them for some reason. I don't know why I had 24 of them particularly. I think it was because the two-handed weapons set came with 12. So I bought 2 sets because 12 wasn't enough, and then I got more warriors from somewhere, and I had 2 different banners because I liked having more banners in the units if I could. So because everything had snow bases, even though I never had a snowboard. I don't know why I did that for, but never mind. These ones obviously painted in lower colours. I took a while. I edge highlighted every single warrior. Very simple on the back, I think. I need to remember I didn't do too much on the back. But yeah, that was those ones. And then I also had a set that had hand weapon and shield. These are sort of more neutral colours, but I think they pretty much always had a mark of Tzeech. Because a mark of Tzeech gave you +1 to your invuln, if you had an invuln. Not invuln, it was ward save, sorry, it wasn't ward save. And if you had a hand weapon and shield, you had a 6+ parry. So they had a 5+ parry in combat and a 3+ save, so they were really tough. And I don't think they had 2 wounds warriors, I think they just had 1, but I think they just had 1, I don't think they had 2. And I also had the banner and the musician and the champion there. But I also did use them with different marks, I think, but mainly with Tzeech. Because the good thing with the Old Warriors and Chaos is you could have marks on whatever you liked. It was a bit like all the undivided Chaos. You didn't have to have particular marks on them. And then I had 20 with 2 hand weapons, as you can see, were very much painted in Khorne colours. Khorne was +1 attack, I seem to remember. And so was 2 hand weapons. I think they had something like 4 attacks each, which is just a ludicrous number of attacks. Top of the banner fell off, so I've put that there. And they obviously again had the usual musician, standard bearer, champion. But these I didn't remember Chaos Warriors being amazing. These ones were really hard to kill. These ones died quicker but dished out loads of attacks. Depending on what enemy I was facing, I took different ones. But I mean, with Warhammer Fantasy, these have sort of 3,000-4,000 point battles. They were huge. I haven't put any of these on them, but when you had movement trays, you just moved 20 warriors up in one block. There were certain aspects of Warhammer Fantasy that were easier. Movement was definitely one of them because you just moved everything on these movement trays. It was also complicated like wheeling and stuff, but anyway, it is what it was what it was. And I have loads of Marauders. Don't even know how many I've got there now. How many is there? 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 36 I think I've got there. They've got hand weapons and shields, but I've got a few of them around. Where can I find one that's not got a shield on? I've got to find one there. Carrying a little dagger thing. So I did sometimes use them with 2 hand weapons. They usually had a Mark of Nurgle, which again I think was either +1 to hit, -1 to hit or something. So they were quite sort of tough. They were big tough unit. And they were pretty good models. They were quite cheap, I seem to remember, but they did die quickly to a lot of things like bow fire and stuff. But they were cheap. I think they used to be called troops. You had their troops choice, I think they were called. I can't remember what they called, core. Can't remember what the options you had to take now. It's been so long since I played Fantasy 8th Edition that I can't remember, but they were fun. That was a lot of painting, I tell you. But I kind of went for a very simple scheme. I think I didn't even highlight the skin at all. They just have a brown and then a green wash on the skin, and then it was all bronze and silver back in those days for me. It was easy to paint. Then I had these crappy Chaos Hounds I never even ever bothered painting. I had 2 painted, I think, for more time, and never painted the rest of them. They were obviously rubbish, but they were useful for like charge blocking. That's thing to them. I remember you could put them in a way of a unit, so the unit had to charge them rather than charging something else. But I don't remember using them very often. I didn't like that kind of thing, so I didn't usually do it. Other units of troopy stuff. I did have 20 Forsaken, but here's the 10 left. I think I sold the other 10 already. These things are like gold dust now. I managed to find some of the bits that were left, so the ones that are missing heads and arms can have them replaced with those when I sell them, which is good. I think I used this guy as a possessed in more time, but he's going to have to go. But yeah, these go for like 50 quid now because they're out of production, so I'm hoping to get a bit for them. And the Chaos Warriors, they're going fairly decent price. Marauders I think are still quite cheap, but they might get a little bit for them. But I'm hoping that the paint quality and the fact they're all together will get me a bit for them. But the Forsaken I'm hoping to get a fair bit for. And they've got some of the old Chaos Knights. I did one in the bronze scheme, same as these guys, and I decided to do the rest of them in blue, like kind of Tzeentch colours. I've got Tzeentch banner on there as well. So whoever buys these, you've got one bronze one, I'm afraid, and the rest of them are blue. But these guys were mental on tabletop. They were so tough. They had a 1+ save, and with Tzeentch they had, I think, a 5+ ward save as well. And of course in fantasy you took both saves, so you took your armor save and then your ward save. So it was, stuff that had both was really hard to kill. And they were really good. They had 2 attacks, I think, or 3 attacks, or more attacks on the charge, or something like that. But they were scary. They were scary to face. Oops, sorry about that. They took a long time to paint too. As you can see, I edge highlighted every single bit of armor with. I think back then it was called ice blue. It's now Lothern blue. So that was a real labour of love. One never got done. Sorry. A couple of the missing shields, but I have found the shields, so there's some there. So they were cool. Back here, 3 Skull Crushers. I did have 6 of these. I think I never painted the other 3, so I sold those pretty much straight away when Fantasy 8th Edition ended. And I hung on to these ones a bit longer. Went for bronze on the Juggernauts, and then the traditional red on the Khorne Warriors on top. They were tough, but then they almost weren't as good as these guys because you just didn't get as much out of them because they were a big wide unit. But they were cool. They got a stomp attack, I seem to remember. You had to stomp because they were on monstrous mounts. I got 6 trolls. Don't think I ever had more than 6. These are the old river trolls. These are worth quite a lot now as well. And so are these guys actually, because these are out of production now. I think you can still use them in AOS, but they were, these were actually Orcs and Goblins. I didn't like the old Chaos Warrior ones, so I bought those ones. That's all the units that I had. I used to have more stuff as well. So I had more Forsaken. But I always had a lot of characters. So I've got all these characters on foot. I've got Tzeentch Sorcerer, I think you can still buy him. Khorne, Chaos Warrior on foot, you can't buy him anymore. Nurgle Sorcerer, he's metal. Battlestander Belt, he's facing the wrong way, should be like that. He's a conversion I did. This guy's lost his head, but I found his bare head, so there you go. This is a Sorcerer, he's from the old, I don't think you still get anymore, the old Corpse Cart kit that I not converted, just painted up. Found him a little familiar. And then I've got another is metal, Chaos Warrior kind of hero model, and I've got, which I never ever built or painted, the Archaon on foot model, which again he's worth about 40-50 quid now, which is quite cool. He was a Games Day exclusive one, and when I first got these out I was a bit gutted because I couldn't find his shield anywhere, and without the shield it was worth a fiver basically, and then I randomly found it tucked down one of the carry cases I've got, so I was really pleased to find that, because with that he's now worth 40-50 quid. So that's really cool. I never used him, I don't think. I never painted him. I think I bought him right at the end of Fantasy 8th Edition on eBay for sort of 20 quid or something. He's just sat in a box, which is why he's never been put together. And then I've got a few more here. This guy you can still get, I think. This Nurgle Chaos Lord on foot. He was a very late addition to it. The old Sigvald model, he's Finecast, which is why his sword's all bent, because Finecast is terrible. And Valkyrie is the same, she's Finecast, which is why her spear's all bent and she looks rubbish. She broke off at the leg. Don't know if I can glue it back on again. But they I don't know how much I used them. I remember those 2, but he's a cool model. Pleased with him. Then I've got this guy. He was from the Tamakon book. I can never remember his name, but he's basically the equivalent of a Nurgle sort of hero on demonic mount. He's quite cool. Cause I used to have the Tamakon model as well, the huge toad dragon thing. But I sold that a long time ago because I realised I was never going to paint it. And I sold the book, which actually I regret now. I regret selling the Tamakon book because it was so good. And of course, there's the man himself, Archeon. He was definitely one of my best painted models for quite a long time. I could probably do better now, but he was cool. That's a fine cast one. But actually, he's a pretty good fine cast. His quality he's not bad quality, to be fair. And I still think that model is so much better than the new one on the stupid three-headed dragon thing that looks terrible. So he's cool. He's worth a fair bit now as well because he's out of production, obviously. Got Khorne, Chaos Lord and Juggernaut. He's metal. He weighs a ton. He's worth a fair bit because you can't buy him anymore. I converted him. He used to have an axe. I've given him a sword because I didn't like the axe. Don't mind got him a blue head, but anyway, he was always good. He used to obviously join the unit of Skull Crushers, and he was cool. Thragg. Let me just move that guy's banner so you can see Thragg better. This guy was a beast. I seem to remember he was mentally good. He was really tough, and he had the equivalent of a feel no pain. And he is worth an absolute fortune now. He goes on eBay for 100, 120 quid. He was awesome. I loved him. He's not too bad. He painted actually. Did a bit more on the back of him and things. Again, he used to sit in a unit of trolls, and he was awesome. He had a really good vomit attack as well that he could do in combat. I seem to remember, so he was really good. Used him a lot. Dragon Ogre Shagger. He was one of my best painted models again at the time. It was one of the only times I've really tried to do flesh sort of properly, as it were. He was cool. He was never that great. I don't seem to remember. He used to get shot by cannons a lot, but he was cool. Giant. Obviously, you can still buy this guy. Actually, I have to go back when he's worth a lot now as well because it's out of production. Giant, he's not worth anything now because you can still buy him, but he was cool. Giant used to die quite a lot from things like cannons, but he was cool. And I got a Sorcerer on Manticore. Did him all in blues. He was very much like a Dazichi kind of guy, but that was always fun. He was a bit weak, I think, but he was fun to have flying around. And the real centerpiece, apart from Archeon, this was one of my favourite ones. I'm genuinely sad I'm selling this guy. This is the Warp, what was called the Warp Fire Dragon from Forge Worlds. Such a cool dragon model. I've nurgled him up a little bit. He's got some nurglings. He's got one nurgling. Look, yeah, sliding down his tail. Having a little ride, which was always funny. He has got a little, what did I put him on? He has got a spear, which is here. So the guy used to have a spear in that arm, I think. There, like that. But he was a beast, actually, the guy on Dragon. He was awesome. Let me just put him back in again like that. Yeah, he was a decent paint job at the time. Again, I could probably do better now, but, this was 4 or 5 years ago, and I think I was pretty proud of that. I did it. So yeah, that's the whole thing. Like I say, I used to have a lot more than this. I used to have some ogres as well, which I sold. I used to have a war shrine, which I got rid of. Had Tamakon, which I got rid of. Had a couple of, I had like a cockatrice model, which I got rid of. Don't think I had anything else particularly for these guys. I can't remember now. To go back and look at some of my old videos. The war shrine was always really good, but I never painted it. But yeah, I just wanted to show that. It's one last pan around. This was a very happy times playing these armies with Jack in Warhammer Fantasy. These huge 3,000, 4,000 point games again. If you want to watch them, they're still on the channel. They're right at the beginning. They're always fun. So I wanted to just do this video before I kind of say goodbye to them. A couple of these things have already sold already. I think they've sold already. And the Marauders have sold already. And the Trolls have sold already. I put them up on Facebook and people were being annoying, so now I'm going to put them on eBay to sell instead. I think I'll go better. So yeah, going to pack these ones up now, get them in their boxes ready to be shipped off because people have paid for them. And that's it. So I hope you enjoyed my trip down memory lane with my Chaos Warriors. But that is obviously, even if when the old world, Warhammer the Old World comes out, you will not be seeing these on it because these are all being sold. I've got to say, this guy is also worth an absolute fortune. He's worth well over 100 quid. That altogether, all this stuff I think came in at, looking at average eBay prices, came in at about £1,000 just for this, which is mad thinking what I bought it for. So that's cool. I hope I can get a bit for it. It'd be really nice if I feel like I can get what they're worth. Some of the paint jobs are pretty good as well, So yeah, there we go. Hope you enjoyed watching that. Thanks a lot for watching, and see you next time.